Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Tuesday, and all of our guests today, as mentioned earlier, brought to you by our title sponsor. Proud to have them aboard. So happy to have them aboard. Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. We're talking more NHL hockey with Noodles. Jamie McLennan from TSN. Jamie, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Not too bad. How are you guys doing today?
Very, very well, very well. Leafs with the locker room clean out today, earlier than expected for them. Jamie, you could tell me if I'm crazy here, but when it comes to the Leafs and the core four, Marner, Tavares, Nylander, Matthews, none of them are defensemen. None of them are goaltenders. Do we talk enough about the fact that their goaltending, and you're a goaltender, hasn't been all that great over the past, all due respect, hasn't been all that great the past several seasons?
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. I would say that, you could address other things. When you look at the way that they constructed their team, it's certainly top heavy and slides to the right. You got two right wingers and two centermen. I just don't think it works, I'll be honest. And there's a lot of people in this market that have been saying that for years. I'm not a guy who's banged a drum on it because they've been great regular season. But when it gets to the playoffs, their depth gets exposed. But in the end, guys, they've got four players that are wired the same way. If you had four different unique forwards, then you could go, okay, maybe we can make this work. But all four of them, they're not physical. They're very skilled, but they're not guys that impose their will from a hit standpoint. So when the play changes, and we all know down the stretch and then into the playoffs, the play changes, their style of game sometimes maybe shrinks a little bit. And let's be honest, they've lost 7 Game 7s in a row. 5 of them in a row, they've only scored 1 goal. So you could say, hey, you know what? Like, Matthew Nyes didn't play well. And you're right, the goaltender, Joseph Woll, or, the defenseman, Chris Tanev didn't score. But in the end, those guys are making the most amount of money. They get paid to score, and they've come up short. So I would argue it might be addition by subtraction in Toronto because 2 of those guys are on expiring contracts. Yeah. So I would think that Brad Treliving might have a different formula moving forward if he's allowed to probably do things his way, because keep in mind, he jumped on a moving train. So it's Brendan Shanahan's team and then Brad Treliving's team. We'll see what happens moving forward with the organization out here.
Mitch Marner being one of the UFAs, one of the big UFAs, John Tavares the other. But who would benefit most from Mitch Marner moving on from the Leafs? The Leafs or Mitch Marner?
Well, financially, Mitch Marner's going to have a giant blank check waiting for him with a lot of organizations that either want to get to the floor. I could see, again, I'm just speculating. I could see a team like Chicago go blank check. What do you need? We need to add players into our mix when we're going to have another high pick and we're going to have Connor Bedard. Now, does Mitch Marner want to go to a rebuilding situation, or does he want to go to a competitive situation and maybe take a little bit less? But I think it could be a win-win for both the organization and the player. The player might be able to move on and have success somewhere else and get paid a lot of money to do that. And maybe in the end, I was saying this to a buddy last night, maybe it's a scenario where he comes back to the Leafs down the road. But right now, it's not working. Put it that way. And I think the Leafs can use that cap flexibility to add a different type of player.
Jamie, we're watching from far away. You're right there in the heat of the battle with the media, the Leafs. We see it every year. So many great regular seasons followed up by so many disappointing playoffs. Yet Brendan Shanahan, 11 years, twice, that's it, past the first round. Is Shanahan in trouble in your eyes, Jamie?
I would think so. I mean, I think everybody would be under a forensic audit from, the new guy, Keith Pelly, who's running MLSE. So I think the bigger picture is Brendan Shanahan's contract is expiring in June. Do they renew it with a different plan and him running the show? Or is the Shana plan, we'll call it, run its course? And he moves on, or they move on from him just not renewing his contract. I think we'll get our answer, guys, in the next probably couple days. I don't think this will be a scenario that's dragged out. They've got big decisions to make. It starts at the top. And if they're going to keep him, I think they extend him. If they're not going to keep him, I think they move on from him and start looking for a different vision. But in the end, I don't control that scenario. I just talk about it like you guys. So I'm patiently waiting as well, put it that way.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. Final four teams, Oilers, Stars, Hurricanes, Panthers. Out of those four teams, who's got the best goaltending right now?
Well, it's Jake Ottinger, if you ask me. I mean, he's been so good, but I don't think people give Sergei Bobrovsky enough credit. Bobrovsky, for me, heading into the finals, he was a Conn Smythe finalist or winner heading into the finals last year. Frederik Andersen's been unbelievable. I just look at it. I think all four. Now, Stuart Skinner's got two shutouts in a row heading into it, but I would think he still has a lot more to prove. So I would think the question would be more, who has more to prove? And I would say it's Stuart Skinner. And then the other three are, proven. I think Frederik Andersen still has a lot to prove, but the other two, Bobrovsky won a cup last year, and Ottinger has been lights out for Dallas. So I think Edmonton's got their work cut out for them trying to solve him.
Jamie, what do the Hurricanes do well and have done well for a significant amount of time?
Everything. And I mean this sincerely. They work hard, so their work ethic is as good as anybody's. Their attention to detail is as good as anybody's. They don't have, we'll call it, quote unquote, superstar players, but they have unbelievable players. Star players, call them. And they've got a good mix. So they've got depth. Their D are mobile and move the puck. I think Slavin is an elite defender. I think their goaltending has held up. That's the biggest question mark, because Frederik Andersen has a guy that, he's a guy who gets injured, let's be honest. And unfortunately, the injury bug comes for him quite a bit. And when he's healthy, he's a hell of a goaltender. So I see a balanced team that mirrors their coach. The relentless work ethic, the attention to detail. So there's no free ice out there. And they do have skill. They do have guys. You go and get Stankoven. I know they swung big on the Rantanen deal, but Stankoven's a hell of a player. Aho's a hell of a player. You look at some of the guys that they have, Svechnikov, they're good players, and they play well together. We all forget that Taylor Hall plays for them.
Yeah.
Like, he won a Hart, but that was in another lifetime. But, Hall scored a goal in that last series. So I think they're a really balanced team that plays with structure, and they make you earn the win. They don't beat themselves, put it that way.
Hey, Jamie, I think it's been a while, but we haven't talked to you for a couple of weeks. I think it's fair to say Rick Tocchet seems like a fit in Philadelphia. He's a former Flyer. He played there twice, loves the city. They love him. But how well do you know Adam Foote? Do you think he's a fit in Vancouver as a head coach?
I think when I saw the hire, I understood it. I would, I want to put my answer, and then I want to get a quick comeback from you guys, the pulse of the market. Obviously, he works well with Quinn Hughes. Obviously, he has a relationship with everybody. He knows the organization. And what I mean by that is we've talked about, we'll call it the dysfunction behind the curtain, because we have no idea what's been going on for 2 years, many years. I don't know. So he's familiar with it. And if they believe he can handle it, then he's the right guy for the job. That's what I would say. Maybe he's got some secret sauce that makes Pettersson feel a lot more comfortable in his own skin, and that he can break out to what we saw a couple years ago. That's what I think they're hoping. And then you're going to add to it. That's up to the management team to add to the group to round it out. But I think having somebody who's familiar with the group was probably their number one priority. Not having somebody come in cold and having to establish some of the relationships, especially when you've got maybe a fragile group that has gone through a lot here in the last calendar year.
Yeah, I'll say this, that I think my take is that the majority of people wanted Manny Malhotra, but I think that conversation changed after Adam Foote's first interview session with the media. He came across really well. I mean, obviously, we'll see what happens come the hockey season, but I think that changed the conversation. Hey, very quickly, Jim, you talk about the Oilers. They've done this without Matthias Ekholm. What will his return? We understand it's pretty close. What's it going to mean to Edmonton?
Well, what it does is balance out their D attack. So he brings, he's going to help their penalty kill. He's a big physical guy at 6'5", and what he does is help settle Bouchard down. Now, Bouchard, the last 3 or 4 games of that last series, I would say actually all of the Vegas series, but the last couple games against LA, his game was quiet, and I think that's when he's at his best, is when he's quiet. Because when he's noisy, yes, he does a lot of good things offensively, but he does a lot of weird things defensively. So the quieter Evan Bouchard's game is, the better. And I think he'll take some of the responsibility off of Darnell Nurse as well. So all it does is add to the depth of the group that played very, very well against Vegas. So it is an ace in their pocket when he can be, and if he's healthy, to show up in this series.
Jamie, above and beyond as always. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. Thanks for this.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You bet.